But if you say that we should not educate children who have come into our state for no other reason than they've been brought there by no fault of their own, I don't think you have a heart.
I don't think you have a heart.
Well, I probably chose a poor word to explain that. For people who don't want their state to be giving tuition to illegal aliens, illegal immigrants in this country, that's their call, and I respect that. And I was, I was probably a bit over-passionate by using that word, and it was inappropriate. But here's what I do believe, that it is a state's sovereign right to decide that issue for themselves. In Texas in 2001, we had, of the 181 members of the legislature, only 4 voted against this piece of legislation because it wasn't about immigration, it was about education. The bigger issue is that the federal government has failed in its constitutional duty to secure our borders. We wouldn't be having these conversations today, whether it was about in-state tuition for illegal immigrants, or whether it was the Arizona law, or whether it's voter ID, which we passed in Texas, or sanctuary cities and the banning of those, which we tried to do in Texas. None of those would come up if the federal government had simply done its job through the years to secure our borders. And we know how to do it. Nobody has dealt with this issue more than I have. Texas governor, a border governor, you have to deal with these issues. You can't just talk about them and say, oh, let's build a wall from Brownsville to El Paso and that will take care of it. We have to live with reality, and the reality is this. You can have strategic fencing in the metropolitan areas, you can put boots on the ground, aviation assets in the air, and you can secure that border. The federal government has to be a participant, though. They have to be the main defender of our border, as they're constitutionally required to do. And as the President of the United States, I will assure you one thing. I will secure that border. And a lot of these issues that we're having to deal with, dealing with the great number of people that are in this country illegally, will go away.
But Governor, do you oppose building a fence?
I oppose building a fence from Brownsville to El Paso and to Tijuana because of the cost that's involved, because of the time that's involved, and because of the great amount of private property rights that would be trampled upon to do that. Now, in the metropolitan areas where the fencing actually can play a positive role, absolutely, because we're using that type of fencing today, and it is having a negative effect on the immigration issue. But you have to have boots on the ground. I cannot overstress how important it is to have those law enforcement presence that can immediately move to an area where you're seeing activity because you've got the aviation assets in the air. That's how you secure the border. Having an obstacle without observation is no obstacle at all. So just the idea of building a fence and saying that'll take care of it, let's just build a fence, it's never worked in the history of mankind. Use strategic fencing, absolutely, it has a role. Use that in the places that it makes sense, but the way you really secure that border is to have the strategic fencing, you have the boots on the ground, you have the aviation assets in the air, looking down, real-time information. That's how you secure that border.
Should illegals have a right to a driver's license?
No. As a matter of fact, I vetoed a bill such as that back over the last years in Texas. So a driver's license is a earned right, and if you're in this country illegally, you don't have that right.
I don't think you have a heart.
Word to explain that.